are we, Raven fans, Oriole fans? Thank you very much for joining us here on the Ravori Sports Podcast, doing our interview series. This is something that we're doing now, and so thank all of you that have watched and our guests, and thank you for all the comments and everything that you've sent out for us. NFL draft pre and post game on draft day. We're going to be coming on right before the draft on the 24th, so definitely check that out. Notary Services, Genesis Notary Services, if you live in the Winchester, VA area. Thank you, all of you that have come back to the notary business in the Winchester, VA area. We appreciate it. See Charles Harris. We are Legal Shield. Legal Shields help my business, and it can help a lot of you. So definitely you can go on the website and sign up for Legal Shield. All right. We got Dodger fan on the house here, Dodger Jason. A guy who we affectionately drive to the top called Dodger Jason here. This is the guy that the new evil empire, right? The Dodgers evolved. I don't agree with that. You know how I feel about that, but that's what we're getting in the Twitter comments and everything, right? Jason, how are you today, brother?
Charles, I'm fantastic on this Saturday, sir. How are you doing, my friend?
I can't complain at all, sir. Can't complain at all.
Good.
So let's start because we're starting the season. I did want to have a baseball conversation here with that. Let's start with your squad, the team that's holding the title right now, the Dodgers.
Yeah.
Let's get right to it. Unfair. I know how you feel about it. What do you think about this? I do think, though, I don't fully agree with fans that say this is unfair, but I do think we are in an area where it's more than what we've seen in terms of a roster, even the Yankees or whatever. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I think it is fair to say, Charles, because even though deep down inside I've been a diehard Dodgers fan ever since I was, 5 years old, overall, I'm just a baseball fan in general. I'm a fan of the whole sport. I enjoy the history of the game, the good and the bad of it. I enjoy reading the stats and reading, books about baseball history. Where I'm going with this is that with the Dodgers, you look at their history, and historically, this is a franchise that has taken a lot of pride in building its success up, its previous successes up through its farm system. Obviously, their old executive, Branch Rickey, was the inventor of the farm system. Branch Rickey was the one, when he was an executive with the Cardinals, way back before he was with the Dodgers, figured out, hey, we can't, ironically enough, outspend teams like the Yankees to get star players. So let's home grow our old players and see what happens. And it worked out well for them. So kind of fast forward to where we're at in this day and age now with finances being what they are. I do think that with the thing I think that gets people irritated, Charles, is that the Dodgers corner the market on every single free agent, because this season or this past winter, they cornered the market on Roki Sasaki. In fact, they cornered the market on him last winter when they were negotiating with Shohei, because there were already rumors buzzing that when Roki decided to declare free agency this winter, which he did, it was already a foregone conclusion that he was going to go to the Dodgers. And yeah, we heard the Padres were in the mix, the Yankees were in the mix, the Mets, so on and so forth. And we knew that was going to happen. But I think everybody knew that he was going to end up in LA one way or another. So I can definitely understand other fans' anger towards the Dodgers, because more importantly, during free agency, as a fan, you want to feel like your team has as good a chance to get any big name free agent out there, just like the Dodgers or the Orioles or any other team. But when you look at how the Dodgers do business, Andrew Friedman and Stan Kasten take no prisoners. These guys know who they want. They scout who they want years in advance before they hit the market, and they are ultra uber aggressive. And so from that standpoint, I can understand the anger. And that's where the whole baseball fan in me comes out and thinks objectively here, because I have to shelve aside my Dodgers fandom. While it's fun for me to watch, I can also see how fans of the Orioles or fans of the Red Sox or fans of the Royals are ticked off about this, because they want to see their teams' front offices make a concerted effort to get these big name players. But yet when LA already scoops these guys up even before they hit the market, or just a couple days or weeks out of the market, then it's already done and over with. So I can definitely understand the anger and the frustration.
I kind of used to believe that, like, where they kind of always framed it, a lot of these owners, well, we have no choice. We can't do this. But you know what, man? a lot of these guys have $1 billion. David Rubenstein, who just bought the Orioles, is a very rich guy. There are certain teams, not quite as much money, real estate, older owners, etc. But a lot of these owners now that have bought teams in recent years, I mean, miss me with all this stuff what we can't do. They have a lot of TV money guaranteed. I think it's just mentality of baseball owners. Okay, well, we can't do it, blah, blah, blah. Orioles, as soon as they started, like out of the rebuild, they immediately started calling themselves a mid-market team. I think this is just kind of is that more just the nature of baseball owners? I mean, in your opinion?
I do think it's more the nature of baseball owners because, baseball more than any other team sport relies more on regional dollars for a lot of its income. Our regional media contracts are more important to us than what they are in the NFL, the NBA, and the NHL. But, for the longest time, Charles, I would stand next to the owners with the small and mid-market owners. I would stand next to them and say, hey, I agree with your argument. But in this day and age, I can't. And here's why. Take a look at who made the playoffs last year. The Milwaukee Brewers made the playoffs last year. They were ranked in the top 15. They were ranked in the bottom 10 to 15 of Major League Baseball in payroll last season. Your Orioles made the playoffs last season. They were ranked in the bottom 15 in team payroll in Major League Baseball. The Kansas City Royals, when they won the World Series back in 2015, they were ranked in the bottom 20, 25 in Major League Baseball in team payroll. Where I'm going with this is I think there's a lot more parity in MLB now. And I think that these small to mid-market owners can no longer use we're small mid-market teams excuse anymore for not winning.
I agree.
And while teams like the Dodgers and the Yankees, A, have greater resources financially and whatnot, and B, are more attractive places to play, that's still no excuse for telling your fan base we can't compete because we don't have the money. That's bogus.
Yeah,
okay?
Absolutely.
And so
Oakland is absolutely the biggest scam artist today. Look how much money they're spending all of a sudden, right? Now, all of a sudden, now you're out. You're signing Severino, you're extending Rooker, you're doing all these things. Now you want a new stadium. Now you're trying to convince. Now all of a sudden, where was this for the last 15 years in Oakland? That's the biggest one. I'm sorry, I cut you off there.
No, that's okay. And it's interesting because I think the one owner who's been most vociferous about Dodgers spending or any big name team spending, primarily the Dodgers, is Dick Monfort, who owns the Colorado Rockies. And I guess my counter argument to Dick Monfort's argument is, really, you're just going to sit back and rest your laurels on constantly blaming the Dodgers for spending money? Why don't you focus more on your own team? Why don't you take a look and see at the success or the lack thereof you have not invested in your organization? Your fans don't want to hear about you constantly bitching and bickering and griping about the Dodgers spending money. What your fans really want to hear, Dick Monfort, is what you're going to do to make the Rockies a more successful organization. So why don't you get together with your vice president and general manager, get together with your marketing teams and your scouting department, and sit back and solve the problems rather than gripe and whine and bicker about it? Because you know what? Blaming the Dodgers for the financial instability in Major League Baseball is not going to get your team division championships or world championships.
Absolutely. And Peter Angelos in Baltimore, God rest his soul, they kind of did the same thing with the Yankees and Red Sox forever. Like, we can't do this, the Red Sox, Yankees, blah, 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 blah. The TV deals. Let's get to that too. Like, because I think that kind of ties into what we were just talking about. I was just talking about it just a few minutes ago in the other conversation I was having. Did ESPN make a mistake by getting rid of Sunday Night Baseball? Was that a good idea? I don't know if they won it all. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, Charles, I don't think ESPN made a mistake at all. In fact, I'll be honest with you, I'm glad ESPN dumped baseball from its sports coverage. And here's the reason why. A, what you just alluded to, I don't think they really wanted to stick with the sport anyway. They were just fulfilling the remaining years of the current contract they had with MLB in order to not renegotiate a new one. B, I also think when you take a look at the product of the ESPN broadcast of baseball games, it has really soured and it has gone downhill for a number of years. I was born in 1975, so I grew up with the great Sunday night baseball broadcast of Joe Morgan and John Miller. And every
Classic
Sunday night,
guys.
yes, Joe and John were the best. And every Sunday night, I could not wait to flip on the game. I didn't care who was playing, whether it was the Dodgers or the Yankees or the Mets. I would watch the game because of John Miller and Joe Morgan. Their love of the game, they infused it with knowledge, and they were just objective broadcasters. And ESPN, when you look at what has happened to them, they have shifted away from that great model of calling games to getting people in the booth who, A, with all due respect, because they're in a bigger place than what I am, don't deserve to be there, or B,
Carl Ravage is good. I know where you're going, but Carl Ravage, I'm gonna exclude him because Carl Ravage is deserving of the job.
Yeah, that's fine. I have no problem with Carl Ravage, but again, just to reemphasize, I'm glad that ESPN cut ties with them because the quality of their baseball broadcast was just so porous. And while I commend people like Jessica Mendoza for getting on there and doing what they could, it was just bad all the way around. And so I think ESPN made the right decision. I don't buy Rob Manfred's explanation as to this being solely ESPN's fault. I do think both parties are culpable here and not coming to terms on some type of agreement for a new contract. But again, like I said, I'm not crying a river that ESPN will no longer be broadcasting games because I think ultimately in the long run, it's best for both sides.
I don't think so. I don't think it's best for either side. I think the ESPN is going in this direction, but I think they need baseball more than they think. This time of year, and even me, and even I as a content creator, which carries your luggage? There's not going to be a football game on for, how many months now? You got baseball games. You got people going to baseball games. So I think that's a mistake. They kind of like complain their way out of it. And I do think for MLB, they clearly have no idea. We were talking about pre-show, the fiasco that they had on opening day with the MLB.TV.com. They clearly have no idea. So you need them too. So where are they going? Where do you think happens from this?
Okay.
Like without ESPN, my guess is it's Fox takes it. I think they take it, but I don't know. Go ahead. I'd love to hear from you, Jason, on that.
Yeah, so I think you're hitting on the right trail there, Charles. I think Fox is going to start carrying more games, but also keep an eye on Apple TV. Apple TV did agree to pick up more games, more MLB regular season games this season. I think last season they broadcast about maybe, 30 or 40 games, that for argument's sake. But what concerns me about Apple TV, though, is that I recently read an article that showed that I guess Apple TV streaming service subscriptions have dropped by billions, if that is to be believed. And so that would concern me if MLB cut ties with ESPN just to drop all their eggs in the Apple TV basket and the Fox basket. Fox is obviously stronger because they've been around a lot longer and they do a much better job at broadcasting games. Apple TV's broadcasts weren't bad last season, and the ones that I watched, but they weren't exactly great either. So, Charles, I think
they're
Fox,
terrible.
We have to keep, yeah. Fox, we have to keep an eye on. But and look, also, Charles, I think MLB is doing pretty much what everybody else is doing, like just how the NFL agreed to stream some games through Netflix, and just like the NFL has an agreement with Amazon Prime to stream some of their games. MLB is looking at the analytics of the media industry, and they're just following suit. And they're looking at all the audiences that have cut the cord and are going to streaming services, and they're basically following the NFL and the NBA's model, which is getting rid of broadcast and regional cable altogether and just going the streaming direction. So you can't blame them for doing that, even though they've gone about it in a half-assed way.
Yeah. Last thing on the media, though, because I always use WWE as the example. WWE, a million years ago, they would have gotten a lot of that pay-per-view money, etc. Everybody thought they were nuts for going to streaming. Yeah. First out in the streaming, start their own network, to the point now where they've sold it to Peacock and sold it now, maybe again coming up. They're doing Netflix. So they're ahead of the curve, and baseball is still trying to figure out about the regional networks. I mean, I think they own like 15 or 16 of the regional networks, correct? Is that right, Jason?
Yeah, they do. Yeah, but there's a little bit of instability in those regional networks, though, because Bally Sports Network, which owns a lot of the regional networks for a lot of the teams, I think they either went belly up or they've had a lot of financial problems. And so as a result, they could no longer carry Arizona Diamondback games, San Diego Padre games. They could no longer carry Kansas City Royals, St. Louis Cardinals games. So, and the reason why is because all of those regional broadcast rights were scooped up in one large clump. Unlike the LA Dodgers and the New York Yankees, who have their own networks, those teams don't have to worry about being tied down to those types of regional deals there. So I think the biggest problem now, Charles, one of the biggest problems for Major League Baseball is figuring out if they're going to stay with regional deals, how are they going to make sure that every single team individually capitalizes on regional deals? Because as what they saw with Bally going belly up, no pun intended there, you can't have these regional deals gift wrapped in one big package because they all lost money rather than made money. So eventually, at some point, they're going to have to figure that little discombobulation out too.
Yeah. So baseball, the business side of it has a long way to go. I think they're way behind the other sports in that. Let's go on the field. What is it like to watch Shohei Ohtani every day? I think he is the best hitter. I think he's the best hitter I've seen in the last 30 years. I think Barry Bonds was better than him. Maybe that's it. What's it like to watch Shohei every day as a Dodger fan?
So I've had the fortunate distinction of watching Shohei for a long time because obviously I live out here in California. And so I watch a lot of Angels games as much as I watch, my Dodgers games. I will say this, watching Shohei, it's about as if you're going to chisel a perfect player, Charles, whether that's Barry Bonds or whether it's Shohei Ohtani, Shohei is as close to being the perfect player that you can possibly get to. Obviously, he's human like you and I. He has his faults. Yeah, he's going to strike out on certain nights. And yeah, there are nights where, he's not going to leg a single out or something like that. But watching him play, it's just, to me, Charles, what's most amazing is, and this is where he's like Barry Bonds, because I saw Barry Bonds play a lot in San Francisco. It's like, it's almost effortless. When he goes up there and swings the bat, he makes it look so effortless. He makes it look like, because I'm a left-handed hitter, he makes it look like I could go up there, pick up a bat, and just yank one out. But when I look at him and when I look at just how composed and how calm he is and just how technically sound he is with everything, that's what amazes me the most. And also when I hear about the way that this guy dedicates himself, not only during the offseason, but during the regular season with his workouts, his nutrition, he is a machine. And I heard Tim Kirkjian, ESPN baseball analyst, once say that if there is the closest thing we can find to watching Babe Ruth, we're watching it right now in Shohei Ohtani. I believe he's the greatest player of his generation right now. And even if he were to retire right now, I think he would be a first ballot Hall of Famer. He's won 3 MVP awards. He's, I think, the only player in MLB history to win 2 MVP awards in 2 consecutive years in 2 different leagues. He became the first player since this guy of, the great Frank Robinson, to win MVP awards in both leagues, because Robinson won one in Cincinnati.
One in both leagues, Cincinnati and Baltimore, yeah.
Yeah. But Shohei, also think about this. Shohei has also been finished second in MVP balloting 4 years. So, I mean, just think about that for a minute. That lets you know right there just the level of consistency and the level of excellence he is on a day-to-day basis. And yeah, you're right. It's every day, like when he gets up to bat, it's amazing, Charles, because every fan in Dodger Stadium stands up and every single camera phone comes out hoping to catch that one moment of history. It's truly amazing. It really is.
Why do Japanese players migrate to the West Coast? I think I've seen that I'm saying they don't play East, But you look at the Dodgers. I mean, Los Angeles. It makes sense. I mean, because it's Los Angeles. I mean, it's great weather, etc.
Yeah.
Why is it?
Yeah.
Why do we keep hearing that where they want to play out west often?
Well, simply put, the financial opportunities are much greater out here for them. Major league teams, obviously, regardless of big market or not, major league teams pay a lot better than teams in the Japanese leagues do. And also, when players in Japan want to play for a major league team, I don't know if anybody knows this or not, but whenever they negotiate with a team, whether it's LA, whether it's Cincinnati or whoever, the team that they're negotiating with has to give the team that they played with in Japan a posting fee.
Yes.
So, for example, with Roki Sasaki's former team told any other team in Major League Baseball, if you want to talk to him, great. But when you talk to him, you need to give us $15 million, $20 million, $30 million just to talk to him. So not only do the players have a chance to make more money here in America, but the Japanese teams are also raking in money for just letting their players walk. So it's simply finances is what it is. Now, obviously, I think for the Japanese players, I see a golden chance for them to continue to build their careers and play the game and play in a game where it's played much differently here than what is played in Japan in terms of the level of competition. But still, finances play the biggest part in all of these guys leaving Tokyo to come to the United States.
Do you think Mookie Betts ever wins an MVP?
What are you talking about? He's already won an MVP.
I mean, I don't think he's ever going to win one more. I don't think he's going to get any more on the same team as Shohei Ohtani.
I got what you're saying. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
No, I don't think that's going to happen. And Mookie right now, I think, is 31 or 32, if I'm not too much mistaken. So even though he can still play at an extremely high level, and we saw that last night because he hit 2 home runs in our come from behind victory last night, including that walk-off 3-run jack that beat the Tigers in the 10th. But given his age and the fact that at this age, players start to deteriorate in terms of their production, and that's not fiction, that's fact, and that he does play with Shohei, he plays with Freeman. I think you're right there. I don't think he'll win another MVP with the Dodgers. He'll always be in the conversation. But yeah, I agree with you, Charles. I don't think he'll win another one as long as his teammate is still leading off for LA.
I think the Diamondbacks are really good. Outside of the fact that they're in the division with the Dodgers, I think everybody would be looking at them. I mean, Corbin Burns signing, I think that's huge. They already had a good rotation. Which of the other teams are you most concerned about, either in your division or in the National League?
Well, I still think the San Diego Padres are going to be a team to contend with. And I know that a lot's been made about some of the financial problems that they've had within the last season or so, but they still have Tatis. They still have Manny Machado. They still have Cronenworth. They still have a potent lineup that can produce runs. Their pitching obviously is the biggest problem because Musgrove is going to be out, I think, all year because I think he had Tommy John surgery.
They're not going to have Darvish either, right? He's hurt.
Yeah, Darvish got hurt, so they're going to be without 2 of their top 3 starters already. But aside from them, another team that does concern me in the National League is the Chicago Cubs. I think the Cubs are going to give them time, but I think the Cubs are going to be a lot better than what people think. And in the National League West, I still think the Giants are going to be a lot better. I'm not saying they're going to be 95 to 100 win material, but when I had a chance to look at their batting lineup the other day, they have a good combination of some young hitters there with Heliot Ramos, Luis Matos, Casey Schmidt, and obviously Matt Chapman, who is arguably the best third baseman in the game. So they have a good blend of youth and veterans there.
Adams there as well.
And Adames is there, right? I forgot.
Adames,
yeah. So yeah, I think those teams. I think those teams have a really good chance to make life miserable for LA, especially down the stretch if they can all stay healthy.
Real quick, Soto, Mamma Mia, the money that he got. Man, I got to tell you, I saw Diane Clark on Twitter the other day say he didn't look motivated. Are you kidding me? for $750 million. I mean, I think he's going to have a bit of a problem with the sense of A-Rod kind of had the same problem his whole career. Once he signed that massive deal, that's all anybody ever talked about. As good as he was or whatever it was, short of him winning the World Series consistently in New York, he's going to constantly hear about the contract. What do you think on Soto? I think the new version of Reggie Jackson, the sniper.
Good comparison there. What do I think about Juan Soto? I think Juan Soto is an incredible offensive talent. He is still in his early 20s, and he's not even in the prime of his career yet. We tend to forget that when he helped the Washington Nationals win a World Series, Charles, back in 2019, he was barely 19 or 20 years old. He was still a kid. And so he's not even hit the prime of his career yet. I see him as a one-dimensional player in that he's an incredible hitter. He hits lefties, obviously, extremely well. He's an outstanding pull hitter. Power-wise, we know what he can do. When he's on his game and he gets on a heater, lots of luck trying to cool him off. Defensively, playing out there in Citi Field, which from what I hear is a little bit more challenging in the elements than what it is at Yankee Stadium, concerns me. He's not going to conjure up any memories of he's not going to conjure up any memories of Darryl Strawberry in right field there for the Mets. Terrible defensively. In fact, Juan Soto last season, I think, ranked in the bottom 5 in defensive efficiency among all outfielders in Major League Baseball. So you're right. And
I watched him play in the Orioles, dog. This guy, that whole defense is probably why they didn't win the World Series, because they couldn't. Verdugo was terrible. Soto was terrible, and Judge is decent, but he's in the wrong spot. What's he doing in center? I mean, he's in. Yeah. So I think that was the biggest thing I had. Is like, man, they can't. And you saw it in the playoffs.
Another thing with Soto too is that whenever I watch him play, it always feels like he's trying to play to prove a point for the wrong reason. And what I mean by that is, I don't know if he's trying to play with an attitude as if, hey, I'm the best player in the game, or if he's trying to play with an attitude of similar to LeBron James, where, hey, I'm the real GOAT. Stop talking about them. I'm the real GOAT. Okay. And so I think from that standpoint, he tries too hard. And I think mentally that's where he tends to get kind of lost in the shuffle there. He simply tries to do much to impress too many people. I think what he needs to do is just go out there and play Juan Soto baseball, lousy defense, and hit the ball. But let's be honest here. The Mets didn't give him over $700 million to win Gold Gloves in right field. They gave him $700 million to hit 30 to 40 home runs and slug 965 every single season.
I agree with you that they wouldn't care. I mean, and he is a phenomenal hitter. Let's not get it twisted. Yeah. Regardless of that, I think he's probably behind Judge and Ohtani, and I think that's it.
Yeah,
there's nobody else. Yeah. So, he seems to look. If you're a different guy. Like, he turned down $500 million several different times. So that's a lot of confidence in oneself to go ahead and do that. One more thing. You mentioned LeBron real quick. LeBron and Stephen A. I mean, what happened? I mean, are these two I had somebody else say, like, they're both acting like 5-year-olds. What's he actually mad about, LeBron? I don't understand why LeBron James cares anything about what Stephen A. Smith says.
Well, from what I understand, and I'm a huge Lakers fan, obviously. I grew up watching Magic Johnson and Worthy and Kareem and all those guys, so my family to the Lakers.
And I am too.
All right.
I've always been a Laker fan, growing up. Yeah, my dad was a Celtic fan. I was Lakers.
Okay. Oh, boy. I bet that was an interesting Thanksgiving, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. Or Christmas. But anyway, to answer your question, from what I've gathered, based off everything I've read in sports articles on The Atlantic and ESPN.com, what it boils down to is LeBron did not like Stephen A. Smith bashing his son, Bronny. He didn't like Stephen A. Smith calling Bronny out. He took offense to it. He approached Stephen A., and that's how it all got started. And you know what? I can understand, as a father myself, I can understand LeBron standing up for his son. And look, Bronny has taken, and LeBron have taken a lot of criticism for the fact that he's playing in the NBA when he shouldn't, and Bronny shouldn't. And I'm not saying that because I hate the guy. I'm not saying that because I'm not a LeBron fan. I'm saying that because when I've watched Bronny play, he has Tyrese Maxey in Philadelphia made him look like a G League amateur in an earlier game this season. I felt bad for Bronny because he literally had no defense for Tyrese Maxey, who lit him up for 45 or 50 points. But where I'm going with this is I understand LeBron standing up for Bronny and approaching Stephen A. But you know what? After that, Charles, what he should have done was he should have gone up to Stephen A. instead of in front of the cameras, and he said, look, he should have said to him after the game, let's go back to the press room here at Crypto.com Arena in LA. Let's you and I sit on two sides of a table. Let's just hash it out, air it out, and get it all done and over with. And I agree with every single criticism that right now what we're seeing basically are two spoiled brats who are pushing and shoving each other on the high school blacktop. And it doesn't help when LeBron goes on the Pat McAfee show and starts dropping F-bombs towards Stephen A. Smith. And then starts pulling in guys like...
That was a shot at him even going on that show. That was a shot. He knew that was not, he went to, that was the guy that's usurping whatever power Stephen A. thinks he has at ESPN. That was intentional to do that. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Oh, it was a chop at the knees. So from my opinion, what needs to happen now is either one of those two jokers, whether it's LeBron or Stephen A., need to call the other up and say, hey, you said what you've had to say. I've said what I've had to say. Let's leave it at that, and let's let bygones be bygones, because they're not going to do themselves any better by continuing to squabble about this, because at this point, it's just getting ridiculous. It really is. I mean, it got ridiculous when it started. But like I said, they just need to sit down in a closed room, go fisticuffs, duke it out, go Muhammad Ali, a la Sonny Liston, or whatever they need to do. But they need to end it right now because it's a distraction.
Rest in peace, George Foreman. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Rest in peace, George Foreman. Thank you. Boom. It's embarrassing for LeBron. It's embarrassing for the Lakers, and it's more embarrassing for Stephen A. Smith. So yeah, they need to end it right now and just let it die.
I agree. I will say this: everybody's saying he's a father, but his son. I have a daughter right now, 17 years old, and I'm kind of not much older than Bronny. Bronny's a little bit older than she is. And we're struggling with that. Bronny's not a child. Bronny's an adult. He's in the NBA. Somebody's going to say something about him. You can't be running in there and being mad. I don't think Stephen A. actually said anything, heard, but I think it was whatever it was. You can't be doing that as a parent. It's tough when your child is not an adult yet or becoming into those adult years. It's anti-parent instinctive.
Well, and I'm also going to sound a little bit subjective here, Charles, but I'm going to place a little bit of blame on LeBron too. And the reason why is because LeBron forced the Lakers to draft Bronny because he wanted to be the next Ken Griffey Sr., Ken Griffey Jr. He wanted to play with his son. Okay, I understand that. But LeBron has controlled the LA Lakers franchise ever since he got there. He has called all the shots. He has told Rob Pelinka and Jeannie Buss who to draft, who to trade, and who to sign, okay? And he pinned their backs against the wall in order for them to draft Bronny James. So while LeBron is standing up for Bronny, which I admire him for doing, let's also keep in mind that he put Bronny in that situation because I think he knows, too, that Bronny is not good enough for the NBA, but he wanted him there because he wanted to play with his son in the NBA.
Yeah, and it's funny, you're the third person I've asked that question to, and every one of y'all has brought up Tyrone Maxey, making him look like garbage. So I think that's I didn't see it, so I don't.
I saw clips of it, Charles, and I really felt bad for Bronny because Tyrese was taking him off the dribble so many times. He was sinking 25 and 30-foot baseline jumpers, with Bronny was still back there smelling the coffee burning. I mean, I felt really bad. You could clearly tell just the discrepancy in talent between a perennial NBA All-Star and a kid who who should still be down in the G League.
I'm gonna follow up one last. Will Bronny ever be any good?
Sorry,
do you think will Bronny ever be any good a good player?
The only way
I don't
Bronny
know.
is going to be the only way Bronny is going to be a good player is if he is not playing with his father. The only way he's going to be a good player is if he spends more time developing his skills and working on his talent, and if he spends more time focusing on not being LeBron James's son. I'm not blaming him for the situation he's in because, again, I think his father put him in that situation. But, if he gets good coaching, if he gets good support, then he has a chance of forging out a serviceable career. Okay. But I don't think it'll be with the Lakers. It'll be with another team because when LeBron eventually does go, whether he leaves as a free agent or retires, trust me, the Lakers will dump Bronny like a bad prom date when that happens.
I've actually had one of those bad prom dates. I can tell you that. I know that's a different story on a different street.
Right.
So last serviceable, never a starter in the NBA. No.
Serviceable, never, not really a true starter in the NBA. I think he can be a 6th, 7th, or 8th man coming off the bench, but I just don't see him being a top 5 player, a top 10 player at any position.
Okay. Let's talk about you a little bit. I was telling you before the show, Jason, that I was a little surprised how good of I didn't know you were that good of a baseball player. In life. So I was not any good as a player. I didn't play past 13. I couldn't even make team in high school. So, but I've always been a big baseball fan. You work as a sports writer, yes? Did I get that? Am I right about that?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. So for the audience who's watching right now, they don't know anything about me. I cover high school sports for a small local newspaper out here in the Central Valley of California. And so I not only cover high school baseball, football, and basketball, but I cover some of the other sports too, like softball, volleyball. I'll do some track and field. I do a lot of soccer coverage. And my coverage area consists of about 7 or 8 high schools that are spread out through about a 40 to 50-mile radius here in the coverage area that I have in the Central Valley. So, it's local coverage. It's not national media. It was the best I could get, but so far I'm enjoying it, and it's been a good outlet for me and a kind of a way to get back into the industry after being out of it for so long.
Yeah, that's kind of rolling to my next question. How long have you been in media?
Well, let's see. I also worked in radio for about 15 years. That was from a period of about 2006 until 2021. So if you combine the 15 years there with the short, 6.5, 7 months I worked for a newspaper right now, almost coming up on 17 years. I also wrote and covered Dodgers baseball for a web platform called Chat Sports back in the early 2000s. When I was
very familiar with it.
I did that as an internship. And unfortunately, I think from what I heard, Chat Sports eventually, folded up their tents and they no longer exist.
Well, the Chat Sports I'm thinking about is on YouTube. Like they have a YouTube channel.
Okay, yeah, this one was much different. So what they would have me do is they would have me just watch games on TV, and then they would have me just do basic recaps of the game action that I watched. I would write the recaps, submit them that night, and then if I needed to pull any quotes for attribution to make the recaps a little bit more attractive, they said I could just pull from the media interviews after the games.
You mentioned, I'm a follow-up, you said the best you can get. How hard is it to get a job in media full time? I kind of know what you would think, but what do you tell the audience, like on a scale of 1 to 10, what would you say how hard it is to get a job in media?
8.5. 8.5 out of 10, especially in my field, because I'm in print journalism. And print journalism has rapidly deteriorated in terms of the quality, in terms of the number of jobs that are available out there. When you take a look at all of the big newspapers nationwide, the LA Times, New York Times, San Francisco Chronicle, the Baltimore Sun, all of the bigger newspapers have slashed their sports departments, newsrooms drastically because social media, the advent of the internet, have quite frankly made our jobs irrelevant. And whenever somebody asks me, well, what's the greatest piece of advice you have for me, Jason, about getting into the media field? I always tell them, have a plan B. Have plan B in your pocket, because before I got back into sports writing, I worked in public relations for a number of years. And even though that's still a part of the job that has a little bit of instability in it, it's a lot more reliable than being a sports writer or a sports reporter. It doesn't make a lot of money, but I make enough to support my family. I'm not in it for the fame. I'm not in it for awards. I'm in it because I love doing it. But yeah, I would definitely say it's difficult because the jobs just aren't out there, Charles. And not only are the jobs not out there, but they're not good paying jobs either. And so if you're thinking about working for one of these, publications, whether it's online or still traditional print, you need to do your homework. You need to ask some questions. You need to find out, are they adding jobs rather than subtracting jobs? What's their editorial departments look like? So yeah, there's still there are a lot more external obstacles to get around than there are internal obstacles.
I think it was about an 8 or 9 in better days. I studied media years ago. Didn't finish my degree in communications, but there's only so many jobs. Then how many people right now working? How many TV stations are there? How many radio stations? How many newspapers? How many people write? It's not a lot of jobs. So I think it's very. We talked about Stephen A. I don't think people realize how impossible what he's doing is, like him or not like him, or Nick Wright, or a lot of these guys. Very, very, very difficult to get there. You kind of answered the question I was going to ask, but like kind of where we are in media. What's the next step for you as far as your career? What do you think? Where do you want to take what you're doing right now?
Well, I'm 49 right now. So yeah, I just aged myself. I went there. I'm 49.
We're the same
right
age,
now.
by the way. Like I'll be 48 this year. Matter of fact, yeah.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, you said 94. You said class of 94. I'm 95. I was a junior to your senior class there.
Okay, awesome. Yeah. A fellow Gen Xer. That's why we got along.
Yeah.
But to answer your question, where I see myself going, honestly, I guess the best way to answer your question is to say I'm taking it day by day and playing it by ear. I don't foresee myself being in the current position that I have now for the rest of my life, even though I have good health benefits and I can invest in 401k. There's always the threat of me losing my job, either because my publisher and editor will go up to me and say, hey, our subscriptions have been down a lot. We're going to have to downsize and compensate here. I'm constantly looking over my back, wondering what's going to happen next. So as far as if that does happen, what I plan to do next, right now, I honestly don't know. I'm sticking with this right now, seeing how far it goes. I would like to get back into PR if that opportunity does provide itself. But for right now, I'm just going to stay with what I have.
Well, what's going on in media is, and I know Adam doesn't like me talking politics or anything on his channel, but it's going on everywhere. It's not just in media. Media, I think, is just a byproduct of, it's going on in with the tariffs and all those fun stuff that's going on. A lot of people are losing their jobs everywhere because of AI and things like that. So building a platform, I think, is so paramount. That's why I've had so much fun doing this. It's like, I don't have to, I did all these media internships and all the other stuff. So I think building a platform, I think, is definitely a part of where it's going.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Now you were going to say something. Go ahead.
Well, also something else that I just remembered all of a sudden was not only building a media platform, like you said, but also networking. Networking in this landscape of media is so important. Networking, and one thing you need to know about working in this line of business is that you have to be comfortable talking to people that you don't know. You have to be comfortable going up to people that you want to interview for a feature or for a game coverage or whatever, pulling them aside and saying, hey, let's talk for 5 minutes about this or that. And so much of my job, Charles, revolves around networking, because I will talk to athletic directors, I will talk to coaches, and just have meetings with them that don't even concern sports, because I want to get to know them and I want them to get to know me, because Another important facet of this job is trust. And there is so much distrust in the mainstream media nowadays that I don't blame Americans in general for not trusting the field that I work in. So you need to be comfortable talking to people, networking. You need to develop that trust and that sitting down, having conversations with them, not related to sports, asking them about their families, asking them about their careers. Why did they choose to become a basketball coach or a lacrosse coach? So you have to be comfortable with that part of the job, because if you're not, you probably won't stand a chance of being in it very long.
Do athletes? Well, I guess you kind of said it. Where are athletes at with media? I think like they see it much differently, being the younger. Like we used to at our age, you know, we used to watch ESPN, watch this, watch. Now it's Instagram, TikTok. There's something going on. Like if something on TikTok, it must be true, right? So what?
Yep.
How do athletes feel? A lot of them date influencers and all that other stuff. Yeah.
Oh, athletes. I think the athletes are better at this than we are, Charles. Athletes view media as a marketing tool. I think first and foremost, they view it as a marketing tool. They use it to engage with their fans, but they use it to get word out about their talent. When prospective college players go to the NFL draft combine, not all of them, but a lot of the big ones will have Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat accounts, and they're having assistants, videotaping their workouts, their combine workouts, and they're plastering them all over social media. They will create the TikTok accounts that show videos of them hurdling 12 feet stacks of lumber just to prove how high of a vertical jump they have. So they know how to leverage it. They use it as a marketing tool. And also, when you look at professional sports in general, it's social media is where most of the scouting is being done anyway. A lot of team scouting departments now are relying on social media to follow a lot of these kids to see what they're doing, not only on the field, but what they're doing off the field as well. Because when you're investing all this money in a number one draft pick, or you're investing all this money in a big name free agent, you want to know that what these kids are doing is not only appropriate, but it's also not going to be a detriment to your team. So yeah, the athletes definitely know how to leverage it, and they use it to their advantage.
You make a big investment, you research it. I don't know why people don't think that. You go into a bank and you borrow $100,000 and you can't pay it back, you might have a problem. If you go into a bank and you borrow $100 million, right? And you can't pay it back, we have a problem, right?
Yeah.
You're taking down a lot of things if you're investing in a player that doesn't know how to act off the field.
And there have been a number of college athletes, especially in the last couple of years, that have lost out on big paydays because the teams that wanted to draft them saw them plaster on TikTok or Instagram Live a big rave or a big frat party they were at. Well, remember Laramie Tunsil. Before Laramie Tunsil, remember when he slid so far down in the draft because of that incident where he had a marijuana bong issue?
Yeah, that thing on his face. Yeah.
That's the best example there of how young athletes and kids are using social media to leverage their talent, but they're also not being careful with what they're doing. So that's a big downfall of the media industry for them, is that they don't realize that what they do day in and day out on and off the field is a reflection of them. Because you're right, like you said, and like I said earlier, if you're the owner or you're my GM, Charles, and you want to invest $45 million guaranteed in the number one draft pick, you want to know the kid you're investing in is going to make good decisions off the field. And he doesn't have to go to church every Sunday, but you want to know that he's not going to be out at frat parties until 3 a.m. before the first day of minicamp starts.
Vinny Serrato said this all the time. Like, he loved players that were married.
Yeah.
He loved guys that were married, especially if they have even young draft kids, because I don't have to worry about where he's going to go. This guy's going to be home with his family, with his wife. He's not going to be out at some party.
Right.
Last thing, you kind of touched on it, NIL. Look, I couldn't even do the stream Wednesday, and I'm going through because Maryland won a game, et cetera, et cetera. Queen hit the brilliant shot at the end. And then I'm looking at the Twitter to pull up the video, and there's like F. Kevin Willard all through the thing. Coaches the Texas coach loses his job to the guy that's going to replace him. We're just in the wild west, man. What's your thought on NIL, real quick?
My thought on NIL is the NCAA needs to nip this thing in the bud, and they need to do it really fast. It's not only deteriorating the talent or the quality of talent in college sports, primarily in basketball and in football, but it's really now become a system where there's no checks and balances, where you have one kid entering the portal 3 or 4 times in one calendar year. I'm actually going to use my Fresno State Bulldogs. Their basketball as an example here. Their basketball team just finished the worst season in program history. They went 5-22, and they lost 7 players from that 5-22 team to the transfer portal, Charles. Okay. What makes it more frustrating too is the fact that these kids are using the portal to literally bounce around year after year after year after year because they want to improve their marketing capabilities. EJ Warner, Kurt Warner's son, is going to be playing quarterback for my Fresno State Bulldogs because he's now at his 3rd school in 3 years because of the transfer portal. And we also need to remember that the transfer portal was initially created during the height of the COVID-19 pandemic, in part so that way seniors who lost their final year of playing a sport to COVID could come back and play the year after and not lose their eligibility.
Right.
Partially. There are other reasons why it was created, but that was one of the reasons why. So with NIL, I think what they need to do is, number one, they need to limit the number of times that athletes can enter the transfer portal. Say, okay, you can only enter it a maximum of 2 times, and that's it. If you haven't decided where you're going to play college ball next after the second time, forget about it. You snooze, you lose. If you decide to go from Florida State to Drexel, and that's the second time you're going to Drexel or the second time you're hopping around, you're staying at Drexel, whether you like it or not. I also think what they need to do is tighten the gap of the portal as far as when the portal can open. And we saw that in college football this season. Before bowl season even started, the transfer portal opened up. And we had so many kids jump into the transfer portal from teams that were going to play in bowl games or teams that were prospectively waiting to find out what their bowl appearance was going to be like. And also, too, the transfer portal, I've heard it say, Charles, is affecting college basketball in some ways a lot worse than football because it's taken away from coaches' abilities at mid-major schools like the Drexels, like the Creightons, to recruit because they can't have the teams that they want to build through traditional recruiting, scouting, and teaching. And so that's taken away from all the Cinderella and all the mid-majors that make the NCAA tournament so special.
Drake made the tournament with 12 new players. 12. Wow. They lost their whole team to the portal. They brought in a whole new team. They lost the coach and everything.
Yep. And see,
I agree. I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, I'm sorry. I interrupted you, sir. You go ahead.
No, I agree with you. I got no sympathy for the coaches. I got no sympathy for the media there. And I tell you why. Because Tom Izzo and Steve Alford, they were talking about this. Y'all created this. You guys have made millions of dollars. Tom Izzo's worth, what, $40 million? Steve Alford, $20 million? No sympathy for you. Sorry.
Yep.
Can't do it. No, you guys have made all this money and got all these studios and didn't want to share. And now the chickens are coming home to the roost. And you're messing up your own sport because, you've done that for you. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah. And Charles, to add on to what you said, sir, they are also complaining because they no longer have any more leverage in recruiting because they know the one thing they are recruiting against now is the almighty and powerful buck. And if I'm a coach and I'm going into a local Fresno student athlete's home here, and I'm trying to get him to come to Fresno State to play, baseball for argument's sake, he's not going to want to play for me. He's going to want to play at a school like USC or UCLA, or he's going to want to play somewhere else where the media exposure will be a lot more and the chance to market himself will be a lot better. So you're right. These coaches need to quit acting like large hypocrites and realize that they are a part of the root of the problem, and it's not going to change until their attitudes change also.
Jason, thank you, sir. tell the people where they can find you out here in the cyber world, and then you're actually a traditional media guy. Tell the people where they can find you.
Yeah, you guys can find me on X. My X address is right there where I'm pointing, at Dodger Jason. I don't have my own podcast like Charles yet, and I emphasize yet. I'm working on getting my own going. But for the meantime, please find me there at Dodger Jason. Please follow, interact with me. Let me know what your opinions and thoughts are. You're open.
And where can you tell us where you actually working, the name of it, or you can, maybe you're not allowed to talk about it?
Oh no, I can. So the newspaper I work for is called the Mid-Valley Times. It's located in a small town called Reedley, California, which again is in the heart of the central San Joaquin Valley of California. My articles are found online, but you need to be aware that there is a paywall. So when you go and try and access my stories, you'll have to pay a subscription in order to read them. That's not my choice. That's my publisher's choice. So, but anyway, that's the name of the paper again, Mid-Valley Times.
All right. Dodger Jason, check him out on Twitter and all that. He be killing baseball fans. Think they're going to beat up on the Dodgers. That's not going to happen with Jason.
Oh no. Well, look. It's a long season. The Dodgers will have a bump in the road here and there. They're going to run into a losing streak. They're going to have some injuries like everybody else will. But at the end of the season, I firmly expect them to be competing for it once again, and it's just been fun to watch.
All right. Thank you, sir, and thank you very much for watching the Ravori Sports Podcast. Like and subscribe to all of our social media content. Here, you're watching this now on our Twitter page, our Twitch page, and on YouTube. Thank you so much for joining us, and y'all enjoy the rest of your day.
My pleasure. Thank you.